Let's be honest, there's a moment every man secretly craves. Not when she smiles at your joke, not when she compliments your confidence. No, it's when you start to sense something deeper, when her silence says more than her words, when she's trying hard not to look too interested, and yet you feel it. She's thinking about you. And not casually, not in passing, but in a way that shifts her behavior, her emotions, even her logic. Because when a woman can't stop thinking about you, everything changes, starting with you. What if I told you that when her thoughts are quietly orbiting around you, three profound psychological shifts begin inside you? Three effects that you never meant to trigger, but once awakened, they can pull you into emotional territory you weren't prepared for. Territory that can either turn you into the strongest version of yourself or leave you wondering how a single connection got so deep so fast. You see, most men believe that when a woman is hooked, they win. The truth? That's when the real test begins. Because her interest isn't just validation, it's pressure, it's curiosity, it's silent expectations. One moment you're going about life normally, the next you're replaying her messages in your head, wondering what she really meant. You start to notice the small pauses between her words, the shifts in her tone. Questions form inside your mind you never used to ask. Why did she suddenly respond quicker? Why does her voice sound different tonight? Why do I care more now than before? She's thinking about you constantly, and without realizing it, she's pulling you into her emotional rhythm. When a woman invests mentally, a man subconsciously responds. It's the unspoken reverse psychology of attraction. When her thoughts tighten around you, your instincts heighten. You become more alert. You start to measure your own actions through her perspective. You become more aware of your choices, your presentation, your silence. It's almost like her energy becomes a mirror, reflecting your potential back at you. And this is where many men lose themselves. They either become obsessed with her response, chasing it, or they step into a quiet power, understanding that her thoughts don't define them. They reveal opportunity. Because the truth nobody tells you is this: when she can't stop thinking about you, it doesn't only mean you matter to her. It means she sees something in you may not even see in yourself yet. She's not daydreaming about the man you currently are. She's imagining the man she believes you could be. That's why her attention feels intense. Her emotional focus is like gravity, not always visible, but impossible to ignore once you're caught in its pull. And if you're feeling it right now, if there's someone whose eyes linger a little longer, whose texts carry that underlying warmth, whose presence lowers your guard without asking, you're already inside this psychological exchange. The question is, are you in control of it, or are you losing control because of it? Before we go any further, I want you to ask yourself something honestly. When a woman starts thinking intensely about you, do you rise to match the image she sees, or do you slowly become dependent on it? Pause. Think about that. Because what happens next begins with that answer. When a woman can't stop thinking about you, the first shift doesn't happen to her. It happens to you. Suddenly, your energy changes. You start to show up differently without consciously trying. You stand taller. You speak with more certainty. You think twice before reacting because somewhere in your mind, you're aware she's watching, even when she isn't physically present. That awareness turns into pressure. But not all pressure is negative. Some pressure builds diamonds. Some pressure makes men rise into their potential, and it's during this stage that most men reveal who they truly are, either someone grounded and self-led or someone who begins to perform, chasing her approval like oxygen. You see, when she thinks about you constantly, she sends subtle signals that her emotional curiosity is awakened. Maybe she rereads your messages. Maybe she notices small changes in your mood. Maybe she laughs softer, asks deeper questions, stares a little longer. And though she may try to appear composed, that energy reaches you. Women communicate unconsciously more than men realize. And a man's emotional radar picks up on it, even if he can't articulate it. You start telling yourself, I need to keep this going. I can't mess this up. She sees something in me. I should live up to it. And that's where the first transformation begins. Your self-perception elevates, but only if you let it. Because here's the psychological truth. When a woman mentally invests in you, her attention becomes a silent challenge, not to impress her, but to be consistent, to be the same man she was drawn to long before her thoughts intensified. This is where most men fail. They shift their behavior trying to maintain her interest, not realizing she was drawn to their original state, the unbothered, authentic, self-rooted version. The moment a man begins altering himself to keep her, he unintentionally triggers distance. Why? Because attraction isn't sustained by performance, it's sustained by presence. And yet, if you navigate this differently, if you see her interest as a reflection of your strengths rather than a responsibility to entertain, you begin to rise in stable confidence. You become more intentional with your actions, not to impress her, but to align with the version of you that naturally attracts her. You step into purpose-driven behavior. Texts become measured, not reactive. Words come from clarity, not anxiety. You remain available but not over-attached. That's the exact emotional posture that deepens her intrigue and transitions her from interest to emotional investment. So, understand this clearly. The first thing that happens when she can't stop thinking about you is that you either step into maturity or collapse into pressure. You either use her attention as fuel or let it become emotional dependence. She's thinking about you because something about you feels grounded, safe, intriguing. Don't lose that trying to overdeliver. Let me ask you something and be brutally honest in your mind. When someone deeply cares about you, do you become calmer and more purposeful or more performative and anxious? The answer reveals how ready you are for genuine female emotional investment. The second thing that happens when she can't stop thinking about you is emotional projection. This is where her mind places you into moments that haven't happened yet, scenes that only exist in imagination. She starts to picture what you'd be like under pressure, how you'd react during an argument, how you'd treat your family, how you'd act when nobody's watching. Women don't just think about what a man said. They think about what it means, who he might become, and whether that aligns with what they silently desire. This internal emotional simulation is powerful, and when her mind sees you in those imagined scenarios, her feelings intensify, not based on what you've already done, but on what she hopes you will do. This is why her tone changes around you. She starts to ask more personal questions. She remembers small details about your preferences, your habits. She notices if you hold the door without thinking, if you listen before talking, if you stay calm under pressure. It's not about perfection. It's about consistency, because when her thoughts are locked on you, she's not searching for flawlessness. She's gauging emotional safety. She's checking whether you are the kind of man her heart can rest in without losing herself. Now, here's the part most men don't see. While she is projecting her feelings onto her vision of you, you start to unconsciously rise or fall into that projection. You either move toward becoming the man she senses you could be, which can elevate your purpose, your clarity, your relational strength, or you shrink under the unspoken weight of her expectations, becoming reactive, uncertain, and emotionally dependent. And when a man succumbs to that pressure, a woman feels it instantly. She senses the internal shift. Attraction begins to fade when you stop being the man she was drawn to and start trying to act like the man you think she wants. To handle this phase correctly, you need to stay deeply rooted. Being grounded doesn't mean being distant. It means being unwavering in your core values. It means not changing to keep her, but growing to deepen who you naturally are. A woman's emotional investment is like wind. It can either fuel your fire or blow it out. She may admire your ambition, but if you abandon it to pursue her approval, she loses respect faster than you think. Her mind is waiting to see if your actions align with your aura. Because here's the truth. She doesn't want a perfect man. She wants a self-aware one. A man who acknowledges his flaws but doesn't surrender to them. One who sees her interest not as validation but as motivation to become stronger, clearer, more intentional. So tell me this in silence first. When someone envisions greatness in you, do you step into it with quiet determination, or do you panic and perform to protect their perception? Your real answer impacts not just relationships, but your entire life trajectory. The third thing that happens when she can't stop thinking about you is that her emotional rhythm begins syncing with yours. She adjusts her responses based on how you move, how you think, how you react to the world. If you're calm, she feels safer. If you're chaotic, she becomes unsettled. If you're decisive in your actions, she becomes more trusting. And if you become uncertain or inconsistently present, that subtle insecurity takes root inside her, even if she never admits it. Because when a woman has mentally invested in you, her stability partially begins to rely on your emotional leadership, not control, leadership. Your ability to remain grounded, clear, and collected starts shaping the dynamic between you, often long before you even realize it exists. This is why some relationships feel beautifully effortless while others crumble under confusion. It's not just about chemistry, it's about emotional alignment. When she can't stop thinking about you, she subconsciously listens for your emotional frequency. If your life is driven by purpose, she will support that drive with understanding and effort. If your life is driven by external validation, needing her attention, her response, her reassurance, then her attraction quietly shifts from admiration to concern. Because in that moment, without words, she realizes she's becoming the emotional anchor in your life instead of the companion on your path. And once she senses that, her instinct is not to lean in, but to step back. See, a woman's heart doesn't respond to pursuit alone. It responds to direction. When she's thinking about you constantly, she's waiting to see what you do with that influence. Will you use it to rise or weaponize it to seek validation? This is why the strongest women often appear to pull away just when a man begins leaning too much. Not because she lost interest, but because you lost yourself. Men rarely notice the exact moment it happens. Maybe you start replying too fast, abandoning your focus, being available at the cost of your own priorities. Maybe you overlook disrespect just to keep things peaceful. Maybe you forget the dreams you spoke about when you first met her, and suddenly the man she was drawn to, the one who had clarity and vision, is replaced by someone driven by her reactions. In that instant, her thoughts of you become uneasy, not exciting. But here's where everything shifts. When you remain grounded in who you are, when her thoughts of you echo back strength, consistency, and worthy direction, her emotional investment deepens. She starts aligning her decisions with your trajectory. She asks about your goals, not out of politeness, but out of desire to understand where her future might intertwine with yours. She adjusts her pace not to please you, but because walking beside you feels safe. That's the rare dynamic where chemistry transforms into connection and connection into alignment. Ask yourself honestly, when a woman's emotions start syncing with your energy, do you lead with conviction or do you lean on her to lead you? One response builds legacy, the other builds dependency. When she can't stop thinking about you, what truly shifts is the pace at which she experiences emotion. Things that would normally take weeks can unfold in days. Her comfort around you grows faster. Her vulnerability deepens quicker. The walls she spent years building start to lower silently, not because she chooses to, but because her emotional system begins trusting your presence before her conscious mind catches up. And this is powerful but dangerous, because the more invested she becomes in her image of you, the more damage she will feel if you're not that man. This is where emotional responsibility enters the equation. Not responsibility to meet her every need, but responsibility to stay aligned with what your energy promised. Understand something clearly. When her thoughts loop around you, she begins revealing parts of herself she rarely shows. She might tell you about past pain. She might open up about fears, dreams, insecurities. She may start asking you questions that seem random, but they're actually emotional checkpoints. Can I trust you with my softness? Do you protect conversations that matter? Will you hold space for who I'm becoming? Her vulnerability isn't weakness. It's evidence that her emotional guard is lowering in your direction. This is not a moment to exploit. It's a moment to respect. This stage exposes the man's true nature. Some men, feeling her openness, chase instant gratification. They push for emotional or physical closeness too fast, thinking connection means opportunity. And while she may go along in the moment, her subconscious mind registers a misalignment. He wants access before earning trust. That small realization grows into distance. Attraction fades, not because of what you did, but because of the intention behind it. The right man does something different. He listens deeper. He slows down. He doesn't rush the pace. He matches it. He values her vulnerability not as reward, but as responsibility. He speaks truth, not just what she wants to hear. He moves slowly, not because he's unsure, but because he respects what's forming. He keeps his life moving forward, not pausing to prioritize her over everything, but creating space where she feels emotionally safe to walk alongside him. That is what intensifies her thoughts from curiosity to emotional attachment. Because here's the reality: when she can't stop thinking about you, your influence can either help her heal or deepen her wounds. Your words can create peace or trigger survival. Your actions will either prove her instincts right or remind her of why she built walls in the first place. You do not need perfection. You need integrity, alignment, consistency. The way you walk matters far more than the speed. So ask yourself truthfully, when someone opens up to you emotionally, do you rush to fulfill your desire or rise to honor their vulnerability? The difference defines the quality of every deep connection you will ever build. When she can't stop thinking about you, there comes a moment when her emotional investment shifts from subtle to undeniable. This is where her actions speak in ways her words never could. You start to notice small sacrifices. She adjusts her schedule to match yours. She supports your ideas without needing credit. She pays attention to the moods others miss. And she shows up even when you didn't ask. Not because she's trying to win you, but because her heart has already chosen you. And deep down, you feel it. You sense the quiet loyalty, the unspoken care. It touches something inside a man that many never admit exists: the longing to be deeply trusted, not just admired. This is where everything reaches its peak. And it's also where most men unknowingly fail the test. Because when a woman cares at this depth, she's no longer observing the man you project. She's responding to the man you consistently are. The mask doesn't matter anymore. Charisma fades. Surface attraction becomes irrelevant. She sees the parts of you that emerge in stillness, in frustration, in honesty. And the question that silently echoes in her mind is this: can he protect my emotional investment without losing himself in it? Because she doesn't want to carry your life. She wants to walk beside you into it. What happens next is determined by one pivotal choice. Do you continue being the man her heart aligned with? Or do you exchange authenticity for control, vulnerability for ego, presence for possession? Because once she senses that you're no longer leading with grounded intention, but reacting to her feelings, her emotional connection starts to weaken, not because she stops caring, but because she realizes she must protect herself from giving too much. But when you stay aligned, when you continue living your purpose, setting emotional boundaries, speaking truth even when it's uncomfortable, leading with calm, not control, her thoughts of you deepen into admiration. That's where a woman shifts from being interested in you to respecting you, from wanting your presence to trusting your direction. And that's when the connection becomes unbreakable, even in silence. Here's the deepest truth most men never hear. The goal is not to make her think about you more. The goal is to be a man worth thinking about less anxiously and more peacefully. A man who doesn't create emotional storms she must interpret, but offers consistency that allows her to rest. When she can't stop thinking about you and it feels safe, she stops checking if you'll change and starts believing you'll lead with intention. That's when her thoughts turn into loyalty. So now it comes down to you, not to what she thinks, but to what you become. Let me ask you directly. When a woman shows you she's emotionally invested, do you respond with ego or with evolution? Do you pull her deeper into something meaningful or make her question if she went too deep too soon? Answer that in the comments right now. And if this hits something inside you, like this video, subscribe for more brutally honest female psychology insights, and share it with a friend who might be unknowingly risking losing a woman who already chose him in silence.